Showers and thunderstorms today, partly sunny near 95. The feline temperature 108. The heat advisory will continue. Showers and thunderstorms will be isolated tonight, mostly cloudy near 75. More showers and thunderstorms Tuesday, partly sunny in the low 90s. And a chance of a stray shower or thunderstorm Wednesday, the 4th of July, partly to mostly sunny in the low 90s. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK 102.5 FM weather.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. German Chancellor Angela Merkel will meet her Interior Minister for last-ditch talks in a dispute over migration, which threatens the governing coalition. Left-wing politician Andres Manuel Lopez Obrador will be Mexico's next president after winning elections. At least 19 people have been killed in a suicide bombing in the eastern city of Jalalabad in Afghanistan. And the British Prime Minister's office has reportedly drawn up new plans for another customs option with the EU.
It's 9:01.
Community Conversations is brought to you by Arkansas Early Learning, offering no-cost childcare in Jonesboro and Northeast Arkansas. Applications at arearlylearning.org.
Arkansas Early Learning is a nonprofit organization.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday to you. I hope that you're having a great start to your day. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. I'm your host, Quabila Jones, along with Mr. Leganzi Kell, and our very special guest today is Mr. L.J. Bryant from the Jonesboro City Council, Ward 5, Position 1. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right, so Mr. Bryant wants to come and give us some updates about some things that have been discussed on the city council and just some around town happenings. So we're going to get right into the discussion this morning.
Well, Mr. Bryant requested this opportunity to come onto the program, and we're certainly happy for when members of the Jonesboro City Council want to come on and talk about what's on their mind and talk about what's going on with the council. So with that being said, the floor is now yours.
Yeah, well, thank you. So we were talking just a little bit before the interview here. I mean, a lot of good things are certainly happening in the city and have happened on the council, and I was appointed last August 1st, so it'll be about 11 months, coming up on 12 months. And certainly the sidewalk ordinance that's now been passed is good, and it'll be a good thing in future developments. We still have a long way to go in past developments as far as the safety issue of children and bicyclists and pedestrians and others not having safe places to walk. And we've seen a lot of pedestrian accidents on Johnson, and even, Johnson all the way from what I call north central Jonesboro to what I would call northeast Jonesboro, even on Hilltop, where a cyclist was recently injured. And so that's a very important issue. So while we're making progress on some things, we still have miles to go.
That's right. Are there any plans to maybe add, I know the sidewalk issue has been discussed until the cows come home, but however, are there still more talks concerning how to make those areas more safe where there are more bicycle accidents?
Well, we don't want more. You mean less bicycle accidents?
Well, those areas where there seems to be an influx in accidents or where they're more prone to bicycle accidents, has there been discussions about how to make those areas safer?
Sure. So I think I'd say two things on that point. There's a master bike pedestrian plan that the city paid for a study for that's come back, and now it's kind of in the stage of seeing really what that would cost and how we would ever go about implementing it. So that's part one, and that's more the recreational part, which also has a safety component. The number two part, at least when we discuss Johnson, those pedestrian accidents, cyclist accidents, that's a state highway. And so there's some discussions happening now, I think, to really try to involve state legislators. And of course, Jonesboro's lucky enough to have a highway commissioner, because on those state roads, while they're in the city, the state determines speed limits, where crosswalks can be, etc. So those are some important conversations where the city and the state have to partner.
Now, getting back to the sidewalks, one issue is that there's some concerns from either property owners or developers about, paying for the cost of sidewalks. So what is being done to address that?
That discussion when it was had in council, kind of had the discussion, say, around a single family development because commercial was already required. And when you looked at what the size of an average lot was and looked at what a linear foot of concrete cost, it was determined in the council meeting that it was only probably be about $500 a lot, since it was only going to be on one side of the street. And if you look at a lot of the lots that are now for sale in new developments in Jonesboro, the lots cost $35,000-$40,000. So, an additional $500 cost was relatively small, particularly considering the safety of the children and safety of others being involved.
I just want to just add this one note. Whenever there is a survey that comes out, I just want to encourage all of the residents to please participate in those surveys, because they use that information to determine where to put what and how to better serve the community, how to allocate the funds where they're needed.
I think that's so well said, and from my time on the council and the committees on the council that I serve on, when the public comes, it really matters, and often the public will point out something that I wouldn't say the city is necessarily unaware, but maybe they bring a different perspective to something and makes you aware of it in a new way.
All right.
Getting into another hot topic that often comes before the council, it is the issue of zoning. And of course, I've had my experience dealing with that. We got our new tower that is currently under construction, so I've had to go through that entire process. But when it comes to building developments, especially when you have developers who want to either build duplexes or build apartments in certain areas, you have citizens that are concerned, and one of the concerns is about increase in traffic. And one example is over in the Harrisburg area. There's been some proposed development over there, and some of the citizens that live in that part of town are concerned about the increased traffic in which these units could bring if they are constructed. But obviously Jonesboro is a growing city, so as the city grows, there's going to have to be housing constructed to accommodate these new people, whether houses, duplexes, apartments, or something else. So how, as the council, how do you guys balance all of that out?
Yeah, so I think that is very well said, that it is difficult, because the kind of the cliche of doing the right thing, and that is important, but trying to figure out what the right thing is not always so easy. And when you look at a zoning issue, you have multiple dimensions to it. Usually the person developing it, of course, has a right to try to do something with their property, but the residents around it have a right to, when they bought their property, it was one zoning, so they had an expectation that only certain things were going to happen. And then to your point, that when things change, there's also a need and a desire to redevelop the town, but it has to be done in balance. So I think in part, we have a lot of studies and advisory committees, etc., to develop land use plans for our city. And that's not to say that they're always in concrete and they could never be changed, but the council relies upon MAPC to really vet a lot of those things and see how it fits in the box, the impact on traffic and schools and crime and how it fits into the land use plan. And then it's really up to the council to try to make the best decision.
I want to ask this question. We often hear residents say, I didn't know anything about this. This is my first time hearing, and many other, some, I hate to say excuses, reasons that they give why they are for or against whatever, they're against whatever. And then when it comes down to when it's time to make a vote, then you have an influx of individuals that are really against, and some are fairly angry. Do you feel that? And this is not to point fingers at the council members, because each of you have, other full-time jobs. However, do you feel that the council as a whole can do a little bit better job at informing the residents of their ward? This is what's happening within a timely manner, so that they're not, bum rushed with.
Yeah, I hear you, and I think on important issues we certainly can and should all do better. Maybe all issues are important in some way. I think the tension that often exists, and I don't mean tension in a real sense, but the balance is in dealing with the incoming issues, and there's always something, we're getting this grant and we're applying for this grant and we're approving this match and, whatever, making some kind of changes to things that impact public safety and the basic day-to-day operations of the city, but then still also trying to have time to really cast a vision and really make sure that we're looking at like Vision 2030 and other things, so that we're really focused on the future of the city, not just the day-to-day, kind of the foresight and nearsight issue.
Now, you mentioned Vision 2030. Let's talk a little bit about that, and what are some of the things that are in that vision?
Yeah, so I think a few things about Vision 2030 that we've recently discussed is, who do you want to compare Jonesboro to as far as who do we aspire to be? I mean, our city certainly has our own vision, but if you compare us to, say, whether it's Columbia, Missouri, or Conway, or Fayetteville, or, kind of pick a city that's really done well that we might want to model ourselves after. Vision 2030 and other things similar have done a pretty good job of just trying to compare on paper how many ball fields do we have, how many of this do we have, how many city pools do we have versus cities of similar size. There's a lot of dimensions to that because, as we were talking, I guess you'd say the geographic disbursement of those things, right? I mean, you could have X number of ball fields, but if they're all in one spot, then it's hard to really compare us adequately to another city because we're so big geographically. We're the second biggest city, as far as landmass goes. So it's important that we do a better job in parks in North Jonesboro and even toward Hilltop. So kind of extending North Jonesboro to really kind of be all the way across the north. Whereas right now, it's easier to build on the things you already have, which we were talking about earlier, Southside, Joe Mack, Craighead Forest. But most of those are, obviously kind of geographically isolated as the city grows, particularly as it grows more to the northeast.
During our Juneteenth event, the mayor came out and gave an address, and he mentioned that there will be some changes, within at least a year or two, or however long it takes for the planning and financial process to be completed, concerning upgrades to the University Heights Lions Club Park. Are you familiar with any discussions? Have there been any recent discussions?
Well, so there's a lot of discussion around parks in town right now, and I know that there's, I hear, I'm not involved in this, but an outside group of folks in town that are really trying to raise money, and try to develop a plan. You look at Rotary Park downtown. That was an instance where the Rotary clubs of Jonesboro got together, as they had done at Craighead Forest once, but downtown across from the Forum. So I know there's a lot of private groups, and so I think it's a matter of trying to figure out where private groups fit in and where the public, as far as the city, really fits in. And I think maybe this month, maybe next month, that our new parks director is updating council, kind of with his plan. And of course, he's new in that position. He'd been deputy director a long time, but now him as director. So we have a lot of people in the city that are new in leadership positions, the CFO, and which there's COO positions open. So I think a lot of things are in a planning process, and then the mayor's very good at implementing things. So I think the next few months, as we really take a look at our plans and the council make some decisions, and then for us to really implement those things.
I have one other question. Sorry, Casey.
Oh, you're fine.
Okay, so when you all are making plans or proposing plans for new developments, upgrades to the existing parks around town, let's just talk about the north side. What can residents do to get their voices heard? I mean, I know, but tell the people what they can do to get their voices heard, and are there suggestions, taken seriously, say, on just to, stick with University Heights as an example. Right now there's only the playground, the parking lot, and then behind that, which I don't know who that actually belongs to, the soccer / baseball / open field. What if the residents wanted some gym type equipment, out there where they can really utilize that space more, adults and children? So would that be taken into serious consideration?
Sure. Well, y'all probably know Tiffany Calloway, who's new to the city, at least in her role now. I had lunch with Tiffany the other day, and I know that's an issue she's working on, among others. Tiffany's tasked with a lot of things, and of course she's the head of grants and community development, so she's usually trying to implement CDBG funds that we have and also seek new funds for the many projects that we need to do. And certainly we discussed that issue the other day as far as parks in North Jonesboro goes, and I think there's even some CDBG funds that she's trying to allot to that. And then in addition to that, there's kind of been talk, at least in the newspaper, where Tiffany and the mayor and others are really working on like a downtown children's museum, the old roundhouse building, if the railroad did donate it. The railroad would donate it if the city closed off a couple areas that they don't want traffic going across their tracks. So there's some negotiations going on there. Okay. But I think that's really important. And there's been, back to your point of public input really matter. There was a gentleman, I can't remember his name, he wrote a letter to the editor, and then he wound up coming to council about not having fountains in the parks, and that was quickly addressed. I mean, the mayor, I think, I don't want to say he was unaware of it, but at council it really came to his attention, and he went to Blue and Blue Cross's foundation, and I believe that they're going to fund quite a few water fountains in different parks around the city. I'm not sure about every park. He listed some. I think there might have been one or two that hadn't made the list. Okay. But so that gentleman gets a lot of credit, to really bringing that issue to the forefront.
All right.
We got a Facebook shout out. Bernard Cobbs says, "Good morning, LJ. How is the family?"
Hey, Bernard, doing well. Hope y'all are well.
I want to say good morning to Miss Shanquetta Cunningham, as well as Kendra Peterson and Steve Richardson. Thank you all for tuning in.
Definitely appreciate that. And we are speaking with Mr. L.J. Bryant, Jonesboro City Councilman, Ward 5, Position 1. And if you have any questions or comments for Mr. Bryant, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080 or leave your questions or your comments on our Facebook Live feed. So, Mr. Bryant, as you know, the city of Jonesboro is growing and kind of going back to the Vision 2030 plan. And, of course, one of the things that comes with growth is an increased concern for public safety and particularly crime. So, looking ahead, what is the council plan to do to stay ahead of things so that the crime problem doesn't get out of hand as the city grows?
Sure. Yeah. So, I think, to me, one of the most fundamental things we have to do as a city is keep our people safe, and that goes to fire, which really, when you think about our fire department, they're also our first responders. So I always feel like their department's not really named as well as it should be, because it doesn't really encompass everything they do. And the same for police, and people don't really understand everything that police do on a daily basis when they're out there with the people, and really connecting people to social services and other things that isn't just strictly, locking up bad guys, if you will. So as the city grows, I think I certainly spend time monthly. The chief's office sends out, crime reports, and y'all probably get those too. And I really try to go through those and try to see where the increases are, where the decreases are. And, it really goes crime by crime. It goes by gender, it goes by geography, it goes by time of day, traffic accidents, etc. So really trying to look at those trends, and there's a variety of things: population growth and population density and traffic and where the traffic count is, and but it's really important that we keep up with those things, whether it's items for the officers, or recently the fire department's interface in their vehicles wasn't really working from a mapping perspective. So we have a final vote at council this coming Thursday, I guess, to get new software for the fire department so that they really have accurate mapping of where the hydrants are and where the houses are. Because as we continue to add subdivisions, it takes a little while for those maps to update. So it's really important that we make sure they have the most basic information like that.
Well, I'll just definitely say that both the police department and the fire department do a good job. I was in Citizen Police Academy, so I got a chance to see firsthand, what police do, and unfortunately, I got to see firsthand what the fire department does. Of course, what I mean by that, we did have a fire here at the studio a few months ago, but thankfully they were able to put it out quickly. But just seeing them at work, you're right, it's pretty amazing what they do.
Absolutely. And I think to your point about the police academy has been great. The Citizens Police Academy has been great. And y'all may be aware the city's going to have essentially call it a leadership academy. They're going to try to have 3 people per ward. And it's really meant to have a completely new group of people. So, I was talking to Tiffany some the other day, and I was kind of naming names, and she's like, they're kind of already involved. So, we're really looking for people that maybe have an interest but have really hardly never served in any way, to make them aware of different aspects of the city, because the important part of that is as we appoint. So this year we've got a new land bank commission, we've got the new kind of downtown corridor committee between ASU and downtown, that a lot of times those boards and commissions, when they're new, wind up being white males. Okay. And you can look at two sides of that. It's certainly not intentional by the mayor. It's just that historically those people have been appointed to other positions, so you kind of look at people that are already on these other boards. So for us to change that, one way is we've got to go out and find diversity in this leadership academy and get these folks familiar with the different aspects of the city, and then in doing so, then they'll be ready to serve on some boards and commissions, and then maybe someday serve on the council or whatever else they might want to do.
That is a great...
Maybe something to look into.
Yeah, so this would be a great opportunity for residents that say are retired, love to volunteer, or just, have some extra time on their hands, and they want to become more hands-on with the goings-on of the city. We live here. I try to encourage people because I was guilty of this. I lived here, but I wasn't a part of anything for a long time.
Well, and the same applies for me before we started the station.
So this would be a great opportunity for the residents that some people have a lot to say. Now it's time to put what, get to work.
Well, and I would say this too. I mean, I just mentioned gender and race and all those sort of things as far as a diversity perspective, but another perspective that's often missed is youth.
Oh.
And by youth, I mean maybe under 40, under 45. At the Municipal League convention, the current chair of the Municipal League, he kind of did a thing with the audience. There was like maybe 1,000 people there, most of which were elected officials around the state as far as city officials and whatnot. And he said, like, everybody stand up. And he's like, well, sit down if you're under 65, so on and so on and so on. And then finally, by the time he got to either 35 or 40, I mean, there was a handful of people left out of 1,000 people.
Wow.
So, and on our council, I mean, there are me and David McLean, and I guess we're probably the two youngest people. But anyway, we also need a younger perspective because the folks under 45 got to be able to lead the city as the older generation eventually retires from public service.
That's right.
Got a Facebook comment from Shanquetta Cunningham, says, for the North Side Initiative, the resident groups will also have to seek private partnerships as potential matching sources. While working with the city should always be on the forefront, especially if they own the parks, seeking private funding support and establishing private-public partnerships is always necessary to move things along and push the agenda forward.
I think that's well said. And we talked about the Rotary Park, Rotary partnering with the city, or even the Booster Club partnering at Joe Mack Campbell on the turf. And in those instances, a lot of times the city pays the cost, and then Rotary or Booster pays the city back over a period of time. So that's helped the city, and as Ms. Cunningham says, that helps the city kind of leverage our resources. And that's kind of what the state has done on highway projects. The state has done more highway projects in Jonesboro because we offered to fund 10, 20%, whatever the case might be.
And I think also the point she's making is that there needs to be a focus on public-private partnerships on the north side as well.
Yes.
We are speaking with Mr. L.J. Bryant, Jonesboro City Councilman, Ward 5, Position 1. We're getting ready to go into a break, but when we come back, we will be back with more. This is Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
What should you do when your spouse irritates you? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Recently, my wife Susan and I had one of those conflicts where we started talking about one thing but ended up listing everything that we sometimes find irritating about each other. All of it could have been avoided if we just remembered some important facts. First, we are equal opportunity agitators. We both do things that annoy each other, and we need to step back and look at ourselves first. Second, it's not all about me. A husband and wife should seek to serve the other, to do what's best for the other. Love is all about giving to your spouse. For more on what to do when your spouse irritates you, check out my blog at markmerrill.com. Remember, your family first.
Family Minute is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation at gmail.com.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
Hello, I'm Officer Victoria Evans. I have always had a desire to help others in need and to be an example and role model to young women by encouraging them to never give up on their dreams. My dream was to become a police officer and to serve my community. In 2016, that dream became a reality, and it is the most rewarding experience of my life. Now I want to let you know about the same opportunity. The Jonesboro Police Department will conduct testing every month for patrol officers. Applications are available online at jonesboropolice.com or at the Police Department, 1001 South Caraway Work. The Jonesboro Police Department offers a competitive salary, health, and retirement benefits, top-of-the-line training, and most importantly, the chance to make a difference in the Jonesboro community. Join me in making Jonesboro a better place. The Jonesboro Police Department is an equal opportunity employer, and women and minorities are especially encouraged to apply. More information is available at 870-935-5657.
The Epic Center, located at 1899 Hasbrook Road, County Road 333, is Jonesboro's newest venue for entertainment for the entire family. They offer an auditorium with theater-style seating for up to 1,100 guests, a large stage, professional lighting and sound, dressing rooms, concessions, and more. Available for weddings, concerts, pageants, birthday parties, showers, and more. Booking and other information is available at Epic Center Jonesboro on Facebook, epiccenterjonesboro.com, and at 870-530-5841.
House of Details, located at 3217 Herb Street, Suite C, is a proud supporter of KLEK, offering detailing on any type of vehicle: waxing, clear coat protection, basic wash, hand wash, shampoo, interior cleaning, buffering, headlight restoration, pickup, delivery, and more. With a motto of, anything mean, we can clean. Details available via Quentin Bogard at 870-273-5187. House of Details on Facebook and houseofdetailsjonesboro.com.
We at KLEK would like to extend a sincere thank you to all of our underwriters and sponsors. If you would like to sponsor or underwrite our programming and help us to educate, entertain, and empower the community, our number is 870-203-9951. Our email address is klek1025fm@gmail.com. The website address is klekfm.org. Again, thank you for listening.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And we're back on Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We are speaking with Mr. L.J. Bryant, City Councilman for Ward 5, Position 1, talking about some of the things that are going on in the city of Jonesboro. And, of course, if you'd like to join in on the conversation, you can give us a call at 870-277-1080, or you can leave your questions and your comments on our Facebook Live feed. Mr. Bryant, one of the new duties that the Jonesboro City Council is tasked with is approving alcohol permits after some rules were changed at the state level. Now, before the ABC will approve a permit, the governing body of wherever this establishment is placed has to vote on it, and you all recently had an application come before you. So just tell us your thoughts on this whole process, especially in light of the fact that, you know, this is a dry county and there are people who are pretty passionate about the wet versus dry issue.
Yes, sure. So I'd say a few things about that. And like you said, you described it well, that the state gave, I guess you'd say, some permitting authority to the city. And it's sort of duplicative. It goes through the city first, and then it still ultimately goes through ABC. Historically, ABC had approved most permits, so they kind of kicked it back to the cities. Some advantages to that. You know, our application is pretty in-depth. I mean, it goes through who the ownership is and what percentage ownership they have, and then it goes through who the owners' families are, and ultimately goes through the chief of police office for them to kind of vet those folks, and then ultimately comes to the council for consideration. And as you said, the first permit we considered was the new Holiday Inn of Mr. Kazi's, and you know, the chief issue really that was being considered by ABC over a period of time was whether it was adequately served, And there's a variety of other factors, but particularly when it comes to hotels, the Holiday Inn franchise, as it was described by Mr. Kazi, did not allow any hotel to open of theirs without an alcohol permit. And so in that issue, the council, in a pretty much unanimous vote, approved that one. As others come down the line, I know at least me personally, I'm going to need to consider those very carefully because, alcohol needs to be controlled and it needs to be in areas that the police can really watch for it. Okay. And certainly the people of this community historically have wanted the community to be dry. So the permits need to be considered very carefully and ultimately to make sure that the owners of those permits abide by the law.
Okay. All right. So has there been it seems there has been an influx of new businesses either trying to come, or we've seen the postings about coming soon. So with that, has there been an influx in applications?
Well, so not necessarily yet. I mean, that might be coming. I mean, the influx of businesses, you're right. I mean, certainly restaurants coming all the time, although there are retailers coming all the time, like Five Below and Home Goods and others that have come. So we've seen a variety of new businesses grow. And there was a headline recently, I was trying to remember how it was phrased. There's the old saying, if you build it, they'll come. But this headline kind of had a take on that. And it was more like, is there anyone to build it? And so what I mean by that is unemployment is at historic lows, and the expansions are awesome, and it's great that good things are happening in this town, particularly from a construction perspective with the convention center and restaurants and hotels and other things. But ultimately, it may wind up being a challenge to really have all the workers here we need to build all these things.
But even though, and this is just my outside opinion, and I don't know what influence the city council has on making decisions on minimum wage. However, while the unemployment rate may seem low, people are not making a livable wage though. So
well, and you make a great point there. I don't know if y'all ever listened to Freakonomics, if you've ever heard of that.
I've heard of it.
It's so cool. They've got a podcast, and he'll kind of look at the backward side of everything, And he was talking yesterday, he was saying, if you got 1% on your money in the bank, but if inflation's 2 or 3%, you're really a negative % or 2 down. So you take that same application to wage, right? I mean, if you were making minimum wage or not much above minimum wage, and even if you got a quarter a year raise or whatever the small amount might be, well, if the cost of everything's going up 3 or 4%, gradually you're going the opposite way. And, there's headlines right now. David Couch, who's kind of originally from Northeast Arkansas, he was the author of the medical marijuana amendment. He is now authoring a minimum wage initiative to be on the ballot in November in Arkansas. And I'm not familiar with the particular details of it, but so I think that issue, knowing David Couch usually gets issues on the ballot, so I'm sure he will get it on the ballot, and then it'll be up to the voters to choose. But again, I'm not familiar with the details of the proposal, but certainly that's going to be before voters soon.
And we got a couple Facebook shout out to Chelsea Chapman, and also Tiffany Calloway says hello.
Hey, Tiffany.
Also, since you bring that up about the wages, one of the arguments about minimum wages, some people say if you raise minimum wage, then employers will be forced to lay employees off because they can't afford that cost. But how do you respond to that in light of what you said earlier, that the cost of goods and inflation is going up and wages aren't keeping up?
Yeah. Well, I would say a few things about that. I mean, number one, I'm a business owner. We've got 27 Jackson Hewitt income tax offices in Arkansas and Missouri. So there's always a balance between we're a family business, so our profit is the money that feeds our family. So we've got to make a profit, but we're not going to make a profit without treating our people well. And so there's always a natural balance there. But I would look at the argument that argument was made, say, on sidewalks. We can't afford sidewalks. Well, we passed the ordinance, and people are still building subdivisions. A couple months later, that argument was applied to, say, multifamily design standards. Now you got to have all brick and more green space and all those things the council passed. And I bet people will still build apartments in Jonesboro.
They are building them.
They are building them in Jonesboro. So nonetheless, I think that argument can apply to minimum wage increases as it makes sense. That you gotta pay people more because the cost of stuff goes up.
Okay. All right. Now, of course, this conversation can go sideways and be talked about till, again, the cows come home. However, I would just love to see especially the bigger corporations that can really afford to pay their workers more, really take into consideration paying them more. No one that works a 8-hour or 40-hour week job should also have to apply for government assistance just to make ends really meet.
And I would say, in regards to that, as unemployment has been low, it's almost forced employers to pay more, not because they necessarily wanted to. I mean, you've seen a lot of headlines, and I can't remember the numbers, but I think Hobby Lobby maybe starts at 12, and Walmart's now starting at 11. I want to say McDonald's is about to start at 10 or 11. And I'm not necessarily sure they're doing that to be nice guys. I think they're doing it because it's necessary, as there's a very low amount of worker pool out there. But and you even see people like Starbucks now offering college education, and Walmart's even said they're gonna work with several different folks to provide college education as well. Because as you look at the population, if you looked at 100 people for our population and you said X amount are children, whatever that X is, 10, 12, 15%, whatever. And then if you looked at another 15 or 20% that are maybe in senior citizen assisted living, end of life, or maybe, mental illness, debilitating illnesses, whatever. And then you look at maybe another segment of the population that's disabled, and then you look at record low time unemployment. These employers have been forced to really offer new benefits and really compete for workers, and that's been good.
And speaking of children, and I guess younger people, and this could even apply to adults of all ages as well. Of course, as the city grows, and one of the things that people, even going back to when I first moved here, have said is there's a lack of entertainment options for the city. And so what is the council looking to do in regards to that? And I know a lot of that's going to go back to the public-private partnerships, but are there initiatives in place to reach out to entities that provide entertainment and try to attract them to set up business here in Jonesboro?
Sure. So I think a few things on that front. Number one, I think a lot of times people aren't necessarily aware of everything that really happens. By the fact that I really say we have 5 school districts, if you say Nettleton and Valley View and Brooklyn and Westside and Jonesboro. So if you really look at all those schools and all of the productions at the high school drama productions, and you look at the forum productions, and you look at the things that happen at the ASU Fowler Center, and just kind of go on down the line. Now, that's not to say that there couldn't be more, so I certainly agree that there could be more. And I think part of that is a downtown is what really makes a community unique. Everybody has a Red Wolf Boulevard, go to any town, right? And everybody's got a TJ Maxx and everybody's got a whatever. And that's all good and well, and it's important, and it sells tax dollars and it's jobs. But really, the entertainment districts can be what really sets a town apart. So we need some downtown attractions. And I've been part of some meetings with Downtown Jonesboro Association and Chamber and others, even looking at things, whether it's water fountains or the new Rotary Park, or whether it's a children's museum, or I think there's even talk of maybe ASU moving their baseball field downtown. So there's a variety of things that people have just kind of thrown out there to try to see what might stick as some sort of downtown attraction back to the entertainment thing, and then to even promote what we have.
And I would also say that it's also key to make sure that there is a wide diversity of entertainment that appeals to the entire community. There's definitely diversity in entertainment options, and I think it would definitely help the city.
Agreed. And my father-in-law always says about his business that he is not his customer. So I think anytime you make a decision based on what you like. If you like X, I don't skate, I don't bowl, there's a variety of things I don't do, so I wouldn't necessarily understand the importance of that. So hopefully between the 12 people on the council, or whatever other committee we might be looking at, that those folks really consider that other people might like other entertainment options and not be dismissive of them.
Okay. Alrighty. I have a question that just came to mind. It's slightly separate from this particular one, but it all can tie in with the building of these new or additional facilities, integrating, more entertainment, whatever the case may be. I'm one of those people that I am starting to try to advocate more for those with disabilities, because I fall into that demographic. As new things are being developed, what role do residents play when it comes to coming to the city council to expressing the needs and concerns for those with disabilities, so that these places are more accessible, so that everyone in the town, I know that you can't add every single thing for every single person. However, making them a little more accessible so that every resident possible can enjoy these entities.
So I think I'd say two things on that front. I believe it's Mr. Jimmy Ashley, and his lawsuits against the city. He's shed a lot of light on things, and he was at the council recently with some pictures and a variety of things. And in that meeting, the mayor was unaware of several of the spots that Mr. Ashley mentioned, and the mayor made it clear that that was unacceptable and that he was going to do something about it. And that was a few months ago. I hadn't gotten an update, but I know he was getting with the city engineering department to really see what we could do. Trees growing in sidewalks, curb cuts not being proper, etc. And then the other part of that is I believe MPO has gotten a grant to really look at coordination of services. So if you look at the variety of nonprofits that maybe they're going and picking up an elderly person in Bono or whatever, and then they're coming into town and waiting at the doctor's office, etc. So there's a real look at the coordination of Northeast Arkansas, that how could maybe those people come in and coordinate with JET so that we could better serve disabled folks and better utilize those dollars,
Well, I definitely need to get with Mr. Ashley. I know him. He's also a CPA graduate, so and I know his family. Anyway, I need to get with him so that I can become more active and follow in whatever he's already gotten started.
Well, and again, it goes back to the discussion we just had about you don't consider other entertainment options other than the ones you're used to. Well, the same idea applies when it comes to being disabled. If you're not disabled, you're not as mindful of it. My mom had a knee surgery and it didn't go particularly well, and so she was in a wheelchair for a bit. And I can even remember we'd go places. Matter of fact, she's involved in our business, and we even had to go out of state a time or two. And when you push a wheelchair through an airport or through meeting halls and whatever, you get a real life look of what it's really like to try to get around. And I know it's not easy.
Yes, sir. All right.
And I've been there myself with my mother. In the last year, my mother's life, having to push her around in a wheelchair, so I definitely do understand that.
I just want to, I know we're not close to the end of the interview. However, I do want to thank you for coming, and I really want you to say again to the residents, all of you out there listening, watching, pass this message on. It is time to get more involved in what's going on within the city of Jonesboro. You have a voice. The city council, yes, they make the final decisions along with the mayor and other individuals. However, they make decisions based on what is best for the city, but based on your recommendations, So we need to get out there and voice our opinions. We need to go to council meetings. We need to get to know the ward, get to know the individuals who serve in our ward. That, speaking of, how can city council members get to know their residents more?
Sure.
And vice versa. How do you feel about quarterly town hall meetings within each ward with both position individuals?
I think it's a great idea. I don't know the magical number on the frequency or whatever, but I think it's a great idea. And of course, we know the mayor does his town hall meetings in the fall, but really that's just once a year. And he wound up combining two wards at once just to try to kind of get the crowd, and so he could bring all of his department heads, etc., to make it a little bit easier. But no, I think it's a great idea to try to involve people more, because the challenge, and you mentioned this earlier, is people often wait until something's kind of pressing, like, oh no, such and such is happening, I gotta go and take care of it, and that's all good and well, and I can understand people's involvement at that point as well, but it's also important to be involved along the way to help us be proactive and help us be mindful of all of those things, and not just be reactive, and that's true of the council too.
And I said that I watched a video once. Someone was recording at one of the meetings, and there was a discussion concerning, I think it was against sidewalks or some structure being put in, and there were people for and against the issue based on the way that it was written at the time. And there was a guy who was a contractor who said, look, I'm in the process of doing some surveying and contracting for this area. Can you please extend the time period to, whatever they were going to install? I want to say sidewalks. However, one of the council members instructed them, well, this issue still has to be read several more times before we make a final decision. So I think if people knew also the process of how things actually work at a council meeting, if an item is on the agenda, it has to be addressed several more times before a final decision is made. So residents, you have the opportunity to go and voice your opinions, your concerns.
We got a Facebook shout out to Shamal Carter.
Yeah, no, you're right about that, and I think a few dimensions of that. Typically 3 readings, so we basically meet every 2 weeks unless there's a 5-week month. So typically it's going to take at least 6 weeks for something to happen.
Okay.
And then if we don't do an emergency clause, it may not take effect for 30 days, but still it's kind of too late to have an impact at that point unless somebody's going to sue the city. But occasionally we do suspend a reading, you know, if it's something that maybe is a little bit more pressing. Maybe we're applying for a grant or, you know, matching funds. Maybe there's some pressing issue where it doesn't need to wait 6 weeks, or we even enact an emergency clause to not make it wait 30 days. So it's important that people be involved as soon as possible, because sometimes we have to make decisions fairly quickly based upon other outside forces.
And I want to also let everyone know, if you would like to get in touch with your city council person, go to the City of Jonesboro's website, and in the search box type city council and scroll down to information, and you'll find each person, and I want to say a mailing address or email address at least, and a phone number.
Sure, absolutely. And I encourage folks to contact me through there. You know, my email is lbryant, so LBRYANT at jonesboro.org. And so I'm always happy to visit with folks and love to have coffee with folks. And kind of back to your point as far as being engaged, I really try to look for every opportunity, and thank y'all for having me here today, of course. Look for every opportunity to go see folks.
All right.
And we are speaking once again with Mr. L.J. Bryant, Jonesboro City Councilman, Ward 5, Position 1.
I want to ask this question. This may not be a council issue. Concerning green spaces around town, you know, I know that Dr. Charles Coleman has been very instrumental in helping to develop gardening spaces around the north side of town. What about other wards also utilizing unused green spaces to help the residents? We talk about, you know, we haven't talked about it here, but helping people become more self-sufficient, cutting costs, and getting the community just more engaged, period. Would that be something you all would consider? Each council member looking at their ward and see what spaces can be used, whether it's for a morning yoga, you know, get the elderly, I don't know,
Sure.
just whatever.
Well, you know, I would say a few things about that, and you're right, Dr. Coleman's led the way kind of on the north side. Dr. Warner in the west end has a community garden, and I'm sure there's others that we might even be unaware of, but I know in Dr. Warner's instance, I know they brought kids there, and I know Dr. Coleman, you know, includes lots of folks in his as well. So green spaces are very important. There's a guy I listened to a little podcast the other day. He's talking about smart cities, and Google has a little offshoot company that's developing a smart city, and it just would blow your mind if you listen to it. They were developing a smart city kind of inside Toronto, and all the roads were underground. And I'm not suggesting we do that today. The only point I'm trying to make is they said that 20 to 30%, this was a shocking statistic, they said 20 to 30% of our land mass in a city is typically roads. If you think about it, intersections of roads, right-of-ways, easements, etc. So we need more green space.
Okay. All right. So you're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We're speaking with Mr. L.J. Bryant from the Jonesboro City Council, Ward 5, Position 1. Please don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Is it time to consider investing online? Do-it-yourself investing is an attractive option for those who want to play a more active role in building their personal wealth. And there are plenty of options among online brokerages. To find the best approach for you, shop around to make sure you understand what your costs will be. If you are knowledgeable about investing, you could save money on trades and even avoid account minimums. However, if you want access to broker assistance and financial advice, it may be worth it to pay a little extra. Keep your money safe. Make sure any firm you are considering is a member of the Securities Investor Protection Corporation. Also, check their background with your state securities regulator for disciplinary actions. Finally, be realistic. It's a mistake to go into do-it-yourself investing with the get-rich-quick mindset. Your goal should be to build wealth over the long term. not to make a killing in the markets. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization dedicated to uncompromising commitment to communities, service, leadership, empowerment. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Gears Foundation, a nonprofit organization providing students with assistance in their academic and career pursuits. Gears Foundation on Facebook, Gears_Inc. on Instagram, and the Gears Foundation at gmail.com.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. 5 locations in Jonesboro to serve you. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
KLEK is conducting a listener survey that will allow for you to give feedback on the station. The information from responses to the survey will allow us to make KLEK a better radio station for you. The survey is on our website, www.klekfm.org, or if you need a paper copy, you can call the station on our business line, 870-203-9915. We ask that as many listeners as possible fill out the survey so that we may have the best possible feedback to continue to educate, entertain, and empower you and be your radio station. As a token of our appreciation, one lucky person who completes the survey will win $102.50. You must submit your email on the survey in order to qualify to win. The winner will be drawn August 1st. Also, each week in July, a winner will be drawn to win his or her choice of a KLEK coffee mug or hat. Again, the KLEK listener survey is on our website, www.klekfm.org. KLEK thanks everyone for their support.
Post Consumer Brands is now hiring full-time operators at their Jonesboro facility. Selected individuals will receive health, dental, and vision plans, 3 weeks of paid vacation, frontline incentive while working on an average 16 days a month. Qualifications for the operator position are mechanically inclined, good work and attendance history, and a team player.
More information, jobs.postconsumerbrands.com.
Stark's Auto Plaza at 2829 Red Wolf Boulevard is a proud KLEK supporter, offering luxury pre-owned vehicles sold wholesale to the public. At Stark's, we never say no. 870-203-9980. Details at starksautoplaza.com.
The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was established on January 1st, 1977. Originally serving Blytheville, Arkansas, and now serving Jonesboro, Blytheville, Osceola, Marion, and West Memphis, Arkansas. Today, the chapter continues to make an impact by focusing on Alpha's national community outreach initiatives such as My Brother's Keeper, A Voteless People is a Hopeless People, Go to High School, Go to College, Project Alpha, Boy Scouts, and the March of Dimes. The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is committed to Alpha's mission of developing leaders, promoting brotherhood and academic excellence, while providing service and advocacy to the community. More information about the Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is available at MOL Alphas on Facebook or via email at molalphas@gmail.com.
The McDaniel Law Firm, 400 South Main Street in Jonesboro, is a firm believer in justice and equality for the minority community. The McDaniel Law Firm has fought for our rights for over 44 years. The McDaniel Law Firm offers legal help for wrongful death as well as trucking and automobile accidents. Bobby and Brett McDaniel are available for a free consultation at 870-336-4747 or at www.mcdaniellawyers.com.
This portion of KLEK programming can be made possible by your business. Your support will help in educating, entertaining, and empowering the community by supporting local talent, serving the community you love, and providing information on issues you care about from a different perspective. Call 870-203-9951 or visit klekfm.org to learn how we can help connect you more with the community, or visit us at 1411 Franklin Street. KLEK 102.5 Jonesboro, educating, entertaining, and empowering the community.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
We're back on Community Conversations on KLK 102.5 FM with our guest, Mr. L.J. Bryant, Jonesboro City Councilman for Ward 5, Position 1, just talking about all of the different things that are involved with the Jonesboro City Council. Now, when is the next City Council meeting?
Yeah, so City Council meeting this week, we moved it because 4th of July should have been tomorrow night, was moved to Thursday night.
Okay, and what is going to be on the agenda? And how can people actually learn what is on the agenda ahead of time?
Sure. So I know we talked about this just a bit. If you go to jonesboro.org and click on the City Clerks tab, I believe it's kind of in the top left, you can easily get to our agendas for each meeting. They're typically posted like Friday before our meetings on Tuesday, and they've got PDF attachments and stuff, so they're super easy. So if there's an ordinance and there's some sort of supporting documentation that goes with it, click on the little tab and you can see what it is. I mean, even if it's a road contract and you click on it and see the different bids from the different contractors, so the city tries to be very transparent in that way. So, but anyway, I don't think I finished answering your question as far as what's on the agenda for Thursday. You know, always several things. Nothing too terribly huge. I think we mentioned earlier about the fire department having some issues in their vehicle on their software, and that's kind of a thing we've got before us. We've got a Public Works Committee meeting on Thursday as well, kind of looking at making some changes on planned unit developments, but nothing too terribly major or controversial this week, I don't think.
Now, we're getting ready to go into an election. Are there going to be any seats? There are going to be a couple seats coming up for election this year, so we could actually have a little bit different looking council this time next year.
Well, I plan to be there if the voters let me, but but anyway, you're right. So every position 1 would be up, so there would be 6 people up this fall. And filings in July and August, and at this point I haven't heard of who's running against who or any of that kind of stuff, so I guess that's still kind of yet to be seen.
Okay. All right, well, we would definitely do our part here to invite everyone on so that they can state their platform on, you know, the issues that they're running on and what they hope to do, what changes they hope to bring to the city council for the next year, for the next 2 years, if they are elected. So stay tuned for that.
All right, we're getting ready to get into our final 3 minutes of the show. So, Mr. Bryant, is there anything that you wanted to talk about or bring up or want the constituency to know that we did not cover?
Nothing specific. I think like what we've said all along is just be engaged and, you know, follow media and follow social media. The City of Jonesboro Facebook page does a pretty good job of pumping out various news. And, you know, the people that don't get a lot of attention is, you know, of course our fire and police are great, but the other hundreds of city workers that work in various departments, whether it's sanitation or parks or whatever, do an awesome job. And so certainly if you have any issue with the city, reach out to a member of the city council, reach out to the mayor's office, and I think you'll be impressed with our city employees. They have servants' hearts and really want to help the people in whatever capacity.
All right, and I can't stress enough, go to city council meetings, type up your statement so that you're prepared to present your case for whatever your issue is. Or better yet, instead of waiting for the last few minutes to speak, talk to your city council members so that it could possibly become an agenda item. How does an item become an agenda item?
Yeah, so before council, you know, council members can have impact on agenda up till, you know, Thursday, Friday, and then the mayor has a little bit of an extended time on Friday to add something to the agenda. And sometimes we'll have a special called, say, committee meeting before a council meeting, and something might be what we kind of call walked on to council. It might have not been on the agenda on Friday, but maybe it's a really pressing issue that come up since Friday. Personally, I have reservations about walk-ons because I don't feel like that there's enough time always given. Sometimes it's necessary if it's a matter of public safety and other things, but certainly we want to be as transparent with folks as possible and give them the chance to have input.
Again, all of this information from past city council meetings are on the City of Jonesboro's website. Click, type in City Council and scroll down till you see agendas, video. There's also a video, so please go and look at those past videos, that information, and then make plans to attend the next city council meeting.
Absolutely.
Any final thoughts, Mr. Legansy?
I don't have any thoughts. I just want to thank Mr. Bryant for asking to come on to the program. We definitely like hearing from our elected officials. And Mr. Bryant, you are certainly welcome to come back to the studio anytime to keep us abreast of what is going on with the Jonesboro City Council. You guys have a great and blessed day.
Thank you.
KLEK 102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily